Knowing your customer and like really understanding how do they get stuff done, that's probably step one.
Without a customer, there is no business. And the way customers interact with a product, website, anything, is such a foundational concept in business that it got its own name, customer experience. But with technological innovation rapidly progressing, its definition is changing. I'm sitting down with Braden Ream, CEO of Voiceflow, to tackle the evolution of customer experience.
I think the future of CX, and I'd honestly just say agents in general, is going to be self-iterating loops.
So I want to ask you a question then that is not written here, but you've inspired me to ask it. What I want to talk about is customer experience.
Yeah.
Now, customer experience in the kind of recent past has been, kind of specifically support tickets and chatbots, as you'd expect. Inbound. Yeah. It's evolving very quickly. So the definition of customer experience as it relates to AI agents is kind of rapidly growing in scope, or I guess kind of coming up levels as to what it means and how AI agents can interact with customers.
Yeah.
How, just generally, how do you see customer experience evolving?
I actually don't think it's evolved enough or evolving enough. I think for the most part, people are applying this like new tech onto the frame, like the mental model that they had in the past, which is like, I've got my phone line and I've got a bunch of human agents. And when a customer calls, I want to automate as much as I can, make sure the customer still has a good experience. But like, if they don't have to talk to a human, I'd rather save the human for someone who really needs that human touch, right? I think people are still applying that same framework, which has been around for 20 years, but they're now just doing it with AI agents where it's like it's like this inbound deflection mindset, right? Like the thing that matters is reducing contact volume or increasing our deflection rate or containment rate, whatever it might be. I think that the opportunity with customer experience and like the thing that folks should be thinking about is like a little bit more holistic around customer experience. Like inbound that should be the last thing that that's your line of last defense because you've already the customer has not been able to find the answer on their own. They have not been able to get the help they need. Like they don't understand what to do. Like whatever it is, by the time they're contacting you and coming inbound, calling your support line, like they're already at that point of frustration, right? And so like, the example I like the best is like with a car rental company. If you're waiting for a customer to call you to like, for example, like change a booking date or change a drop-off date, that could have been automated by the second they get the keys from the, the kiosk. You send them a text and says, hey, I'm your AI agent. I'm like your personal concierge for this trip. Anything you need, just text me, right? Be proactive about it. Because now that customer is like, they're thinking, oh, I don't have to contact the contact center. I've got this thing right here that I can just chat with, right? And so I think that's like just a good example of a mindset shift from waiting for the customer to reach out because they've reached that point of frustration to being proactive to decrease deflection. And especially with, the prevalence of sort of like mobile first companies now where like the primary, digital interface for them is their mobile app, there's such an opportunity there to put an agent that, lives in that interface and the customer goes from feeling frustrated that they have to call you or contact you or email you, whatever it is, to the nice part of an AI agent is there's no such thing as a dumb question, right? With a human, like I'm frustrated. If I can't find an answer to a very simple question, I'm going to feel dumb when I, call and wait in the queue for 10 minutes just to hear like a simple answer. I'd rather have like, the questions I ask ChatGPT, sometimes they're moronic, right? But that's like kind of what I love about it, right? Is like, there's no such thing as a dumb question to an AI agent. And that has now encouraged me to like use ChatGPT more and more because I'm like, it can always answer what I need. And, I don't have to go talk to a human or talk to a friend and be like, what does that mean? Like, and so I think like the idea of brands being able to build agents that are not just there to deflect, but there to be informative with customers. We're seeing customers who are doing. There's a bank. Actually, I think we have a case study, so it's public. But there's a bank in South Africa called Sanlam that they built essentially a financial advisor agent with Voiceflow, where its goal is not to like deflect customers. Its goal is to help customers get financial advice, and in the process, they're able to offer products that might help that customer in sort of their financial goals, right? So like, hey, here's your credit score. I actually noticed like, you'd be a great fit for this product, right? You'd be a great fit for this card upgrade, for this, increasing credit line, whatever it might be, loan issuance. And so shifting this idea from like, there's support and there's outbound calls and like, there's all these like different things. It's all one customer experience, right? Like it's like that, like customer, like that like CX operating system. And how do you think about like the automation layer as being one unified experience between your brand and your customers?
That's interesting because from the perspective of the builders and the implementers, there is that push to. It would be nice to have that push towards proactivity.
Yeah.
Just to quickly touch on, I think it'd be interesting from the customer or the user side. Is that like is this something that customers are looking for actively and asking for and expecting?
Like the best part of my job is I get to speak with, like Voiceflow is built for like product-minded CX teams. These are folks where they've taken on the challenge of building it themselves, right? Like they want to have, and I don't mean build, like writing, lines of code. Like obviously Voiceflow makes this easy, but like they want to own the customer experience. They don't want it to just be handed to them, right? They like do a consulting contract or something, and they just it gets thrown over the fence. They want to own that experience themselves, and so. I get the benefit of speaking with a lot of these folks every day, and I think everyone's thinking about this, but no one's put it all together into what that looks like. Is that a product? Is that a set of best practices? I think there's hints of it, which tells me that like my gut says, over the next year or two, I think you'll start to see that evolution take place. But I do think for the most part, everyone is thinking reactive, like call center, reactive chat, support, deflection, automation, containment rate, because those are ultimately the metrics. But if you get a little bit more creative, I think you can end up achieving the same business goal while providing a better customer experience by blending in some proactivity. And, by just thinking about even if cost reduction is the channel, or if cost reduction is the goal, voice and phone call is the most expensive channel by far, right? I think folks are often thinking like one level deep of, okay, if my phone line is my most expensive channel, I need to have the best automation possible in front of the phone line. When in reality, the actual problem might be higher up the customer funnel, is that you don't even want folks to have to call in the first place. Like no one wants to spend 10 minutes of their time hopping on the phone. Like, especially depending on your demographic, older demographics do typically prefer calls, but younger demographics would way prefer using a web experience, a chat experience, WhatsApp, Apple Business Chat, like socials, like, giving the customer more mix in channels might actually be the best way to reduce cost. Because yes, you have to support another channel, but if it reduces volume from your most expensive channel, that actually might get far more ROI than an incremental 10% deflection, by switching to a whole big solution and doing a ton of contact center automation on top of the phone line. Simply adding another channel might actually get you the same result. And you're switching to a cheaper channel, right? Like a chat's typically around 10x less in cost. So if you spend, a fraction of what you would do to get that uplift in deflection on the phone line, and you can actually do that by adding a channel to your mix as well. Or even better, you do both at the same time, right? But I think it's like more so the mental model than like a prescriptive, tactic is like thinking a lot about customers' journey and what causes them to get on the phone, and can you solve their problem before they get there? Like that is like the mental model shift that I think agentic AI in particular can really help.
Where do you put, as a team, metrics to that? When you look at the hard ways to measure this is how we're going to, I guess, improve or prevent even the point where it gets to deflection.
Yeah, I mean, like I think you could essentially break down metrics into three broad categories. One being efficiency, so how cost effective is your solution? Like humans would be the best satisfaction, you'd hope, if you're the best agent. A human agent is going to have the best satisfaction and probably the highest resolution rate. But it's going to be the worst on efficiency, right? A deterministic bot, back in the day, super efficient, right? There's no LLM cost. It's all just like deterministic compute, like the most efficient. But then its resolution rate is going to be lower and its satisfaction rate is going to be lower. I'd say agentic AI is going to have a higher resolution rate. It should have a higher satisfaction rate, but its efficiency is going to be like kind of in the middle between a deterministic solution and a human. And so like those are sort of the three metric categories, because every company is just going to have a totally different metric set, right? Like measuring success is notoriously hard in CX, because if you just go off of containment, well, the best thing to have is a broken bot, right? If your bot doesn't work, 100% deflection, no one ever gets it to a human because the bot's down, right? Like that would be like a bad metric. And so you have to weigh it, like you have to basically weigh everything across three categories at all times. You have to have one for efficiency, one for satisfaction and resolution, and one for one for automation rate, and one for like actual satisfaction and resolution. Satisfaction and resolution was very typically like a thumbs up, thumbs down. But I think you can get a little bit more nuance now using like, Voiceflow's got like its built-in evals feature specifically to like read the actual transcript and just look at the history. Like, did we do the thing or not? Right. And, was the customer satisfied in how they did it or how this was achieved? Automation rate's actually quite easy. It's just, did we have to connect to a human or not? Right. So there's like resolution, which, resolution and CSAT are often pretty tied together. Like if the customer got to the resolution and it was done in a efficient like way that they felt like their time was valued, high CSAT, high resolution. Automation rate is how many times for that resolution rate, because the resolution rate is actually decoupled from an automation rate, right? If a human gets involved, that still counts towards resolution rate, right? All you care about is, did we resolve the customer's query, right? Whether it was a 100% human, 50% human, 50% bot, 100% bot. That's sort of, your resolution rate's independent. So then you have your automation rate, which is really sort of a metric of like how effective is your agent at handling sort of the breadth of queries that are coming in. And then the last is efficiency.
What I think is interesting is we've sort of tackled the same kind of thing from different perspectives, right?
Yeah.
From the user side, from the business side, from the mental model side, from the metric side. Kind of now getting into the reflection and future direction of CX. How are teams going to have to evolve to address the fact that change is happening?
I'm going to take this in a different direction.
Sure.
I think the future of CX, and I'd honestly just say agents in general, is going to be self-iterating loops. So with like human in the loop, essentially. The best customer experience, in my opinion, would be, or the best way to achieve that end customer experience would be the agent has a conversation with the customer and it doesn't get resolved. It's missing some knowledge, right? There's just, and the agent has enough guardrails in place where it knows it's not supposed to answer unless it has that knowledge. It goes ahead, and after that conversation is done, it searches online and says, hey, like, does our company do this? Like, do we actually do this? Like that thing that I wasn't supposed to answer? Like almost like a human employee, right? Like, I've got a very rigid script and I get on a sales call and a customer asks a question. I say, let me go ask my manager. And this is super common, right? In enterprise sales. Like, let me go talk to product. Let me go talk to whoever. And then they go get that information and then they follow up with the customer, right? I think the best experience would be what mimics sort of, the evolution of business over the past, decades, of like how we do this at a human level, you start to do that at an agent level. So that agent should go research, figure out if your company actually does that, have access to internal docs, whatever, and then not make it change right away to itself, because you do not want like a self-iterating loop. There's like Anthropic put out a whole report where the agent was supposed to maximize sales, and it ended up just giving everything away for free. You don't want a self-iterating loop, but you would want it to come up with like you log in the next morning, hopefully to Voiceflow, and that agent is like, hey, I had this customer interaction yesterday, I couldn't answer it. I went and I searched our docs, I searched our website. I saw we have a doc for this. So I wrote up a draft, take a look, and if this looks good, I'm going to go ahead and add it to my knowledge base. Then the next time that customer comes in, like a customer comes in and has that same question, that's solved, right? And so I think it really starts to shift this framework of like, we are building agents to the agent is building itself and we're supervising it as it does it, right? And with really good rollback, right? Like you need to roll back a version, like, hey, suddenly it goes off the rails, real-time monitoring just to make sure that, the agent's performing as expected. Like, I think that's where the space is going to go. It's going to be more compute intensive, but I think, the bet is that the cost of tokens is going to keep coming down. The cost of all this stuff is going to keep coming down. And so as that happens, then it just continues to open up the floodgates for how many loops, how many iterations, how much can we do?
So I want to ask you a question then that is not written here, but you've inspired me to ask it. As someone that has been so active in the space, how are you as a customer in other, I guess, businesses, or if you're on a website or you're interacting with another agent? Has this just fundamentally changed the way you think about your own experience as a customer? It's kind of like I don't know, if you're a movie director, or if you've been on set, you never go to a movie and you see the same. You see the behind the scenes. Yeah,
it's we've got the privilege of working with a lot of great companies at Voiceflow now, and like I was in London seeing Oasis at Wembley 2 months ago, and in the UK, like it's StubHub International, and it's a Voiceflow customer, and we actually end up we had some problems getting one of our tickets delivered, and we actually got to use the Voiceflow bot, which was quite cool.
That's cool.
And it's interesting to see your technology play out in the wild, and I think what I often think about when I go from being like, very sort of forward facing, where's this space going? Like kind of like my CEO day job, to like, just make sure that we're on the right wave, right? We're not heading towards a rock. Like we're picking the right technology stack. We're making the right bets, to going and being, sort of a customer of things that our customers are building with Voiceflow. You see that I think a lot of folks are, still trying to get to a place of having a production agent in the wild, and the technology, while the tip of the spear of technology is advancing, and like what's possible is constantly growing, most folks are not going there, not because they can't or they don't want to, it's because they shouldn't. Because, for example, that self-iterating loop that I just talked about, very cool sales pitch, very cool idea. I could spend all day on like the intellectual curiosity around that. But in practice, there are going to be a lot of flaws with that system, right? And there's going to be a lot of change management, and there's going to be, it's going to be super expensive. We had a customer who they are a big BPO, and they work in a region of the world where the cost of human labor is, I think it's like 5 or 6 cents a minute, right? Which, we break it down is like, it actually makes sense. At an hourly wage, it's actually not a bad wage. It's the way it breaks down in that region of the world. And so when you look at AI solutions, with most AI solutions running anywhere from like 7, 8 to 12 cents a minute, it's like double the price of a human. And so I think sometimes as technologists, we need to like swallow our ego a little bit and understand that like what is possible is advancing so quickly. What is practical, what is responsible for today is moving much slower, right? Like I used to work at one of my first jobs, I worked at a big bank, and I remember I worked in the on the tech side, and like we were just adopting REST APIs, right? And this is like 6-7 years ago. I think that sounds shocking, but it's because like if things are working, there's no reason to rock the boat, and it actually introduces risk, which actually therefore like risk is the worst thing, because risk is bad for your business, but it's also bad for your customers if you have an outage, right? It's bad for your customers if you have a data breach. And it's the same thing as, it's bad for your customers if your agent's hallucinating or it's like doing crazy things. So, I think, there's really two curves to think about. There's like the technology curve of that's constantly advancing. It's what's possible. And then there's the business adoption curve of what's practical, reasonable, sort of expected today.
You've also perfectly segued me into the last question I want to ask, which you have answered in various ways. But if you are at the place where you're ready to take the next step with CX, with customer experience, and you're dealing with maybe an old framework and you have this advancing technology, you're not going to do everything all at once. What is the very first place you look for that incremental improvement?
First off, like understanding deeply who are your customers, what are what's the segmentations of demographics, where they live, and like how do these people get information, right? So my parents, probably first thing they're going to do is go to the website and then give them a call, right? Like find the phone number, call them, right? My mom, anytime I have a problem with any service, she goes, call them, and I go, I don't want to call them, right? I wish there was a better way. If you have a younger demographic, it's probably going to be mobile first, right? And so like knowing your customer and like really understanding like the daily habits, how do they get stuff done if they have a choice? Like that's probably like, what is their voluntary or preferred channel of choice? That's probably step one. Step two then is, does your channel mix align to that, right? You can get a ton of deflection and a ton of, cost savings from people having to call in just from having information that people are asking about easily surfaceable on your digital channels, right? Like, it's almost like, Voiceflow is obviously a company to build agents for CX of, we love high volumes, right? But for a lot of customers, just having a good FAQ page might do just as much as having a good bot, right? And so look for like kind of the easy wins and like really think about like don't just think about by the time the customer gets to the call or by the time that the customer gets to your inbox or whatever it might be, like what led them to get there. Like if you go higher up in their journey, that might be the best place to start automating, and it might even not even look like automation. Right? It literally might just be adding more FAQs, right? It might be making a button more surfaceable or more visible on your website or your mobile app. Like look for automation before the automation has to happen. That might be the actual best automation. And then, once folks do realize they have to call in or text or email, whatever it might be, make sure you have the appropriate channel mix where they're doing it on their terms and in their preferred channel. And I think those are probably the steps I would look at. And then, once you've kind of done all that and you've automated as much as you can, then you start to get into like, how do we proactively reach out with a channel that the customer would enjoy, and see if there's opportunities for, again, like the car rental one, are there opportunities to send a text message as soon as they pick up the keys? Because for us, that digital channel is more cost effective than a call center. For the customer, it's async. They don't have to sit on a call. They don't have to, have the worry of having to talk to a human and, like sound professional or whatever it might be when you're trying to enjoy, a vacation or a drive or whatever it might be. Like, look for opportunities like that for proactive deflection where you're reaching out to the customer way ahead of them having to reach out to you. That's probably like the first step is kind of those sequence of steps.
I love it. I feel like we started with the insight of proactivity. Yeah. And we ended with productivity. And
it's all about being proactive, man.
Absolutely.
Proactive deflection is that's my word for, or sequence of words for 2026.
Yeah. Thank you so much, Braden. That was fantastic insight. Awesome. And I'm excited to talk further for next time.
See you at work on Monday.
I'll see you then.